All right. At the last minute, I realized I wasn't wearing my headphones, and so I scrambled to put those on. Uh, Hello again. Um, I'm back for another live coding session. This should be fun. I decided that after last week, with our Slack slash app, there were some things that we could probably have done to make it a little better. We did leave it to where it was very kind of restricted as to how you could use it. You had to put in a 3-digit um, number. So if you wanted to do one, you had to put in 001. It worked, but I think there's some things that we can do to make it a little bit more uh, interesting and kind of, we have all this data in MongoDB, so why not query it a little bit more, give people more options. Let me check the stream. It seems to be doing well. Let's check out the desktop. But before we get into that, I want to tell you about the awesome thing we're doing for MongoDB World this year, and we are holding a hackathon. Tim Fogarty has been leading this up, and it's going to be awesome. There is a blog post where he talks all about it, but you can do this hackathon from anywhere. And so if you go to this page, eventually there's a link that will take you to the dev post. So you can sign up for the hackathon here and kind of look at all the awesome prizes that we're giving away. $42,100 in prizes. So $10,000 for the uh, first place, and a lot of swag. But what's really cool is the top 3 projects get a trip to New York City to present on stage at MongoDB World. So if you want to go to MongoDB World, I think this is a great way to do it. You could go for free and get a little bit of fame and fortune and swag. But then there's some other categories that will get you, it looks like $1,000 and some other exclusive swag. The free on-demand MongoDB University, that's something that's pretty cool. Definitely great to have. But check it out. I'll make sure to put these links in the description so you can get back to them. All right, so back to what we were doing. Where we left off last week, here is my, this is the MongoDB community Slack. So if you're in it, you're welcome to use this Slack app that we're building. But where we left it was we could call Pokédex, and then we could give it a specific number. So if I want the one for, let's say 5, I have to put it in as 005, but that will return back Charmander. And we put a little bit of information on there. So it's a flame Pokemon, and its type, or Charmeleon, my bad. Sorry to all your Pokemon fans out there. It's a type fire, and a classification is a flame Pokemon. But that's really all you can do. Like, what if I wanted to say, do Pokédex and put in Charmeleon? Well, it's going to say that there's no Pokemon for that given ID because it's Pokemon based. Or what if I want to, bring back all of the grass types? So we say type equal grass. Again, it's not going to work because it's set to use that ID. So that's what I kind of want to work on now, is to give us more options to pull information from the Pokédex. So we'll switch back over to our Stitch app, which I already have pulled up. And so this is the StitchCraft Slack app that we were working on last week. So we have our service, we have our Slack service, which is a generic HTTP service. But inside here, we have created a webhook called Pokédex. And it's already hooked up to Slack. So if you want to learn how to do that, you can check out the video for the previous episode. But this is pretty much where we left it, where we're getting information from the payload. We're running a query, and then we are just sending a response. So we're sending a single attachment because right now we're actually using a find one. So we know it's going to return 1. We'll have to change that because after we change this up, we could possibly get multiple Pokemon. So we want to be able to build multiple attachments. And so we'll switch that around as well. Okay, so where should we start? Um, Outside of here, I've built a couple functions that we're going to use as helpers, and I put those into Stitch functions. So one that we're going to use is we don't have access to pad start, which is an ES 2017 function that's added onto the string prototype. Uh, you might know it as left pad. And so what I did is I went into the spec for pad start, and I looked at the polyfill and tried to put that in here as best as I can without making it a prototype function. So now we have a uh, pad start function that takes a string, a target length, and the pad string. So in our case, we're going to use zeros. So we'll pad it on the left side with zeros for that target length. And so this is just a little function that we're going to use as a utility. All right, and then the other function that I put in here, I'd like to thank Nick LaRue, who's on our education team, gave me this nice little function that will parse CLI style argument lists. So this is what we're going to use to figure out what people are requesting. So you can see here we've got this example where we have for equals, and then we got limit equals, type equals, and so it's key equal value and space together, so you can have multiple ones. So that's going to be helpful for what we have coming back. And so you can, I'll have a link to the repo that has access to this function, and you can just take a look at it when you like. So these are the functions that we're going to use. Cool. So let's start implementing that. We'll go back into our webhook. And so what do we got? We have text coming from the payload. And so that's going to be everything after the command. And so this is still going to be very important. And so we can keep that. The response, we can go ahead and keep this because this is what we are actually returning back from the webhook. And then Slack knows how to determine it. So first, let's change it up to where we can specify the ID in the right way. So now that we have this text, we're going to need to parse that out. And so we'll go down here, and before we search the collection, we're going to have to call that function. So let's say const params is equal to, and to call a function from another function, let me pull that up in the Stitch documentation. If we go under functions, we have call a function. And if we scroll down here, we have call from another function. And that's all we have to do is use the context that's available to us in Stitch functions and pull the function out. And so we execute the function and we give it the first parameter, which is the name of the function. And then each parameter after that is the parameters in order that we're passing to it. So what I'm going to do to make this a little easier is I'm going to open this in a new tab. So that way I can look at the functions that I'm using as I'm doing it. And so this is going to be context dot function dot execute. Let me make sure it is singular functions. Yep, functions execute. All right, so the first parameter we need to parse arguments. And so we'll do that. Apparently I copied more than I wanted to. The second argument is going to be the first argument that gets passed into this, and it's only asking for this args string. And so that's what we're going to get. We're just going to pass it right along from the text we get back from this command. So we're just going to pass it text. And then that's going to parse that into an object. So we'll have our params object. Excellent. And I'll put a semicolon to make that go away. What's your problem? Missing semicolon. Something's not happy there. We'll just ignore it and keep going. And so now we're going to dynamically build the query object. Yeah. So we can do, I'll make that a let query. Cool. And this is going to be an object. And so now we can pass in the ID, and we can give it params.id as that query. And so now we can replace this find one here with query. Saved. Oh, that's nice. Something I instinctively do, but forgot that we have implemented it. If you command save inside the editor, it will save it for you. Just another nicety. All right, so let's go over to our Pokemon, and we'll do the old command, Pokedex 001, and that should not work. And it actually gave us an error, which it probably spit back out something because the string was not in a way that we wanted. But now let's go ahead and do ID equals 005. And that worked. Awesome. Okay, so now we can basically do the same thing, but now we're using kind of a CLI style argument for it, so we can pass in that argument. Now we could also do, type equal grass, which really should not return anything, but because of the way we're building the query, we're just ignoring anything other than what we want, so it should still work. Yeah. Oh, and that actually did not call it because I just edited that. So we'll go in here, and it's still going to bring back out that one because we're just ignoring any other parameters. Let's go in over here and look at the logs just to see what that error was. So here was our function error, and cannot access member map of undefined. So it didn't like the string, basically. Cool. We'll fix that error message later. All right, so back over, let's bring the functions back up over here. All right, so now let's take care of the other thing, which was the padding issue. So here we can basically run our pad left function around it. So this ID is going to be context.functions.execute, and it's going to be in there. And the first parameter is going to be the name of the function. And so if we go over here, we're going to use this pad start function. So the first parameter is going to be pad start. And then the second parameter is the string. So we got that in. That's going to be the param.id. The length, we need that to be 3. And then we're going to pad it with zeros. So that function is going to execute there. So we'll go ahead and save. And now what that allows me to do is to go in and I can do Pokedex. Let's get rid of that. And now I can just ask for the one with the ID of 5. And it's going to return Charmeleon again. Awesome. So it didn't really break anything. If you want to call it the old way, it's still going to work because the pad right pad start function is just going to realize that it's already padded and then return. Um, cool. And we can still do things like the wrong thing, where we can ask for the ID of Bob, and it's going to come back and say no Pokemon found for the given ID Bob. Sad. Okay, so we've taken care of like one annoyance, and we've kind of opened it up to add other things. So let's go out and look at our data again, because it's probably been a while since we put our eyes on that. So whoop, no, go here. Okay, so that's our Stitch console. This is our Atlas console. Should have had that open before too. Let's see. Yeah, and then we're also still doing a find one on this. So we're only getting back one Pokemon. All right, look at the collections. Da, 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 da. Still loading, still working. All right, so in our Pokemon database, let's get rid of data, Pokedex, pull those documents up and just kind of look at the first one we got here, Caterpie. So we've got a type, which is an array. And then what else do we got? Let's just focus on type, because we got a type there. That's bug. That's bug. This type is grass and poison. So let's set it up to where we can pull back results based on type. So what I'm going to do is change some things around a bit. So we might not always have ID. And there is a trick we can do to kind of conditionally add things using some ES6 features. And so I'm going to spread the result of this conditional. And so if params.id, well, not really if, but if there's a params.id, we are going to spread this object here. And then that will allow us to do the same thing. So if params.type, then we want to put in the match for looking in the type. All right, and so how do we do that? Let's go back over. And so what's cool is with Data Explorer, we can kind of test out our queries before we use them. And so I think we can just do type. And let's see if we can pull back grass. Okay, and we've got Ivysaur, Bulbasaur, Venusaur, Oddish. Yeah. All right. So we just need to put in the type that's passed in for the type. Cool. Easy enough. So we'll say type and params.type. Well, that was a pretty easy one. Let's save. Except right now, we're probably only going to return the first one because we're still doing a find one. So if we were to do Pokedex type equal grass, we're going to get Ivysaur because that was the first one that was returned. So let's refactor this a bit so we can actually map over So we can actually map over the results and display them all. And we'll probably see if we hit some kind of limit. Wouldn't that be fun? Dun, 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 dun. All right. So here we go. So Pokemon, I think Pokemon plural is Pokemon, but just to make things easier, we're going to call it Pokemons. And we're going to change that to a find and await that. And if, so here we got if not Pokemon. Let's change that up. So if not Pokemons.length should do it. So if there's nothing returned, no Pokemon found for given query. Let's say that. So that way it will actually just return that query. That sounds good. And so now here's where we need to map over our Pokemon's results. And so I think, so map is going to return an array. So we don't need this, but we can do Pokemons.map, and that is going to give a Pokemon. Okay. And we are going to return an object, and let's just return this, because we've already did all the hard work, and I kept the name Pokemon. So we're going to return this object for each one of them. Let's save this. And it's going to put the result array as the response.attachments and return that. Am I missing a, yeah, missing a semicolon. Missing one there. What's your deal? It says it's missing a semicolon. Oh, it's because I'm using an await. That's fine. Not all warnings have to be addressed. And so let's save that. Cool, that's saved. And now we go back over. And if we do / Pokédex type equal grass. Actually, I want to see. I forgot if we're case sensitive. Okay, yeah, so it is case sensitive. That kind of sucks. The data is put in as a certain case. Let's copy that so I don't have to type it again. Oh, cool. All right, so we're going to do it with the correct case, and we'll see how many this pulls back. Oh, you know what? Maybe we are. So doesn't equal 0. Save. I always feel like that should work because the length, and then if you invert, anyway, if you knot it, let's see. All right, Pokédex type equal grass. Ah, broke it again. All right, this is where we go look at our logs. Logs. Uncut promise rejection map is not a function. Oh, did it really not return anything? Okay, so this is where we can put in some console logs. So get that. Console.log Pokemons.length. console.log ejson.stringify. You know what? As I'm typing this, I realize what I did. So what does a find return? It actually returns a cursor. Uh, and so I'm trying to do these operations on a cursor. Uh, and to get it as an array, wait, is that right? Yeah. Uh, we're expecting to return a promise, and so we have to do toArray to do that. My bad, but we'll go ahead and leave these console logs in there for right now. We'll save it, go back over to here, we'll run this again. Whew, that's a lot. How many? All right, so we've got a number of Pokemon: Ivysaur, Bulbasaur, Venusaur, Oddish, Parasect, yada, 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 yada. But we can go over to our logs and we can refresh these. And here is where the Pokedex function webhook was being called. And so there were 14 that were returned. And then this is actually the data that's being returned. So that's pretty cool. That was a very small change to be able to pull back more than one Pokemon. But let's make sure that Pokedex ID equals 1. So make sure that still works. Bulbasaur, awesome. This is like a silly thing to do, because if you have an ID, then you don't really need anything else, but you could possibly do type equal grass, and it should still return the same. So yeah, Bulbasaur is a type grass. It's also a type poison, but the ID is still there. But let's see what happens if we do something that doesn't match. So Pokedex ID equals 001, type equal fire. Cool. So as you'd expect, Bulbasaur is not a fire type. And so the query that we're sending over actually comes back with nothing. So that's sad. I think another thing we could do with this type is do combinations of type. So if people wanted to send something like, I want, I don't know why, I keep thinking I'm in the terminal, but I'm not. I'm in Slack. So if we wanted to do Pokemon type equals, and we wanted to give it like a comma separated list of values, so we'd say grass, poison. Right now it wouldn't know what to do with that. And I think we can just do a simple split on a comma, and it will take care of it, because even if it's one item and there's no comma and we do a split on the comma, then it will still return an array with one item, which is great. So we can change just this a little bit up here where we're doing the type. And I'm going to use a $in. So I'm going to say that $in, except that's, oh, so we need a sub. Okay. And we're going to split that on the comma. So will I think $in will bring us back all of them that have both, or we'll put it together. Really testing my knowledge of the query language here. Let's find out. Okay, so now we're saying where it's in this array. Might have to look that up. All right, so now if we wanted to do this, wow, it didn't work. All right, we'll have a lot of fun playing with the logs today. Cannot use map of undefined. Swell. Where's my, cannot use map of undefined. Cool, that's cool. Let's add some more console logs. So I want to see what my params look like, I guess. So let's do console.log, and we're gonna have to stringify, so we'll do ejson.stringify params, and I'll save that. And I want to see what my query looks like, so we'll log ejson.stringify. The dot did not survive. That's cool. And we'll pass in query. So that will be helpful in debugging this. Back on over here. Give it another shot. I think it did the same thing. Okay, so here's the second time it failed. It is just not going to show me my console while this map thing is happening. All right. So let's just cut this out for right now. And we'll say that Pokemons is equal to an empty array, because that should short circuit the rest of it. Interesting, interesting. Cannot access map undefined. What did I do? All right. So we've got this type. Params.type.split. Oh, it's in parse arguments. It's trying to do parse arguments. Did I put an ID in there? That's very strange. All right. Just going to return. So I can get all these. It's probably a more elegant way of doing this, but it seems to work for me. Is it running the, wait, oh, no, never mind. Okay, this is the first thing we're calling is the parse arguments. And so it's not liking how we're sending things over. Let's take that out because I realize where I am now. So it's breaking right here. And so let's console.log our text. because it's having trouble with the text that's being passed over. And it might be because of the quotes. So let's find out. Okay, so let's go grab this. Yeah, so the quotes are escaped, it looks like. So that's an interesting thing. I wonder what happens if I don't put them in. Okay, so it says none was found, but let's take a look at what all my console.logs are. So this one was okay. Type equals these logs are not helpful because I didn't put anything in. Let's try to make these more helpful. And this is params and query. Let's add some spaces. Cool. Save that. So we're getting a little further. Okay. If we look at the logs. So the text we got was this type grass poison. Params, it's getting us a type grass. Oh, because there's a space there now. Okay. And so we're saying the type is in grass. I mean, that should have worked just with one. Oh, wait. Yeah, let's undo that. So it looks like it would return, if I would have actually let it return things, it would have returned just the grass type. So it's not actually querying for grass and poison. And that has something to do with the params that we got back. So and if I put the in, let's see. Okay, so this is going to break it. Oops. Again, I'm not. Okay, so let's put these back in. Run that. Okay, so that gives us an error. And when we look at this, so we've got the text coming over. All right, and so now there's an issue in this function here. Oh no. So we got the string that comes in. Create. A lot of things chained together. Okay, let's create an array of strings in the form. key equals value, key equals value foo. I guess I should have tested this a little bit more before we did it, before I used it. I wonder. No, have I tried it this way? Because is it the space that's messing it up? Okay, let's try it. No space. That. Ah, okay. So there's definitely something wrong with the parser that we'll have to look at. But now we're. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that was interesting. We had an OBS crash. Let me make sure everything's still running. Okay, so we're back live again. For some odd reason, OBS crashed, which is not happiness, but you know, uh, we'll get through this. Cool. So here are all of the grass and oh, okay. So yeah, this is what it is. We're not exclusively looking for ones that only contain grass and poison because we are getting grass and psychic here. So and then there's just a grass one. So not exactly what we want. So let's go to our trusty documentation. We don't need that anymore. Don't need that anymore. And actually, I'm going to open another page. So if we go to docs.mongodb.com, this is the main doc site. I know we are usually on the Stitch ones, but I want to do server is what I want. Manual. Querying. Indexes, also change streams. You know what, we're just going to use Google to search for it. See, matches arrays that contain all elements in specified query. So maybe we want all. Let's go into that. Okay, all operator. So let's change that. So instead of in, let's do all. And we'll go back over. Wait, did I save that? We'll save it again. All right, so now we'll go back over and do the Pokédex. And we just want the ones that are grass and poison. No, so that still didn't work. Grass and poison, grass and poison. So we're getting them, but then we're also getting some psychic and some regular ones. Let's go look at our logs. I just want to see what some of this stuff is returning. So it's returning 14. Oh, it's actually not. So this could be part of our problem. The query is all and it's grass. So somehow we've lost poison in the type. Okay, so it looks like we're still having an issue with the parser, um, which kind of sucks. But that's something that I'll work on offline, so we don't kind of continue wasting time. Let's go back to the data and see what else we can do with it. Name. I guess name would be a good one to add, right? You want to search by name. So let's add that. And we're going to do a similar thing. I'm going to put it after ID because I feel like it kind of goes there. Params.name, and it's going to be where name is equal to params.name. That, semicolon there. So now if the name is passed in, we're going to add that to our query. So let's save that and go see if it works. Just so I don't spell anything wrong, I'm just going to grab one. Come here. And we'll go over here and we'll do Pokedex name equals Ivysaur. And so now this should return only Ivysaur. Excellent. So that's awesome. The issues we're having with the parser are not so awesome, but we'll take a look at that. But we've now extended, the // app a little bit. We can now search by type. We can search by name. We can search by ID without having to put in, the 3-character ID. That's helpful. And we can, we can do all these different things. We could possibly add in sort. So if we wanted to sort by a certain attribute, we could put that in and then handle that on the back end. If we wanted to sort, if we wanted to limit it, there's quite a few Pokemon, I think 155 records, something like that. So if we wanted to put in a limit, so you could say, give me all the grass type, limit it to 5. Actually, that one should be pretty easy. Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, let's add limit. I think limit's a good one. I think I'm not really sure what it's sorting on right now, but so if we do a limit, we need to go over to, so here's where we call a function. Let's go over to Atlas and our find documents. Is that the way you want to? Okay, so actions. And uh-oh, something's happening on my computer that's making things not happy. So find, okay. Find a single document, no. Find one or more. And I think we can so we can tag on just a dot limit, just like we would anywhere else. But like, what happens? What happens if we put null into limit? That's what I want to know. MongoDB limit query, because that will kind of decide how we build this. Use limit, supported values, and numeric. So setting 0 is the equal of setting no limit. So that's good to know. Negative values. So what we'll do is we'll use the parameter or 0. So we can go ahead and go back here. So here is our find query, and I'm going to add limit because limit works on the cursor. And so what's going to go into here is we're going to check params.limit. And if there is that, we're just going to give it params.limit. Otherwise, 0. And so that way, if we don't pass in a limit, which that needs to be spelled correctly, it'll go 0, and that's limitless. So let's see if that works. All right, so if we do Pokédex, and we'll say type equal fire, and we want a limit of 5. And I think I might actually have to do a parse int on that as well. Let's find out. Cool. I bet you that's the issue. So let's go back to the logs and refresh them. So our parameters, we've got a limit. It's a string. So let's go ahead and put the parse int in. So here, if we have it, we're going to use the parse int of that. Save. Go back here. Give it another try. Awesome. So here are 5 fire type Pokemon in no particular order. So that's a great example of using multiple parameters with the same command. And actually, I bet we could pull back all of the Pokemon, because if you just do Pokédex with nothing, will it get upset? So it doesn't like that. But if I just say limit equal 15, cool, so that will work. And that's kind of nice. If somebody, you can't pull back everything. I guess unless you put limit of 0, let's try that. Pokédex limit equals 0. Too many attachments. Okay, so we hit the limit. That's kind of cool. We hit the limit for Slack. They obviously have a limit on how many attachments. I didn't read the documentation to see how many that was. But if you want to pull back, all of them, you kind of have to set a limit, and it has to be within the range of Slack. So I can say 25. Let's see what that. So that's going to work, and actually cut me off at 20 and did 25 more. So that's cool. All right, I think we're gonna call it quits there. I need to look at that parse issue because it would be really cool to say I want normal flying ones, or I want grass poison ones, and so I really want to see that work. And it's not something that's happening on the MongoDB side. It's something that's happening in that function, and I'll just have to dig to the bottom of it. But I don't know. This was fun. Playing around with this and seeing all the Pokemon. I will hopefully be able to splice these two videos together without degrading the quality and put those up so you guys can watch this later. But again, if you are building any kind of Slack / command with Stitch, I want to know what you're doing. So let me know in the comments, or you can tweet me, whatever. But I don't know. See you next time.